Let's bring Doug Flynn in for a moment. And of course, if there are questions to be answered, we can hear them. And we're watching this live. I'm sure he loves this, by the way, the president in Versailles, all the gold, right, at the palace.
Oh, yeah.
As he wraps up the trip. So Warsh, so they asked President Trump a few minutes ago, they said, what do you think of Warsh? You know, he had his first meeting. He kept rates steady. He didn't cut them, certainly. And the president said, whatever. And then he clearly wants lower rates. But can you explain to people, there's something that the Fed has called the dot plot. And that's not guidance for the future, which Warsh says they're not going to do anymore. But they have this like plot of rates that seems to say rates are going to go up, not down next, right?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One is Warsh seems to want to move away from that forecasting guidance that the Fed kept doing, because what it did is it really locked them in, and so everybody centered around what they last said. And so they've had an easing bias, which means that they've been inclined to lower rates. And so he removed that today, meaning, hey, we may not lower, we may raise, keep it more open.
Does that make sense to you? I mean, I feel what I heard him, I thought that kind of makes sense. You know, obviously we want transparency, that's the argument. Yes. But the idea of not locking yourself in also makes sense, no?
It does. It's almost like forward guidance that a company would have when it tells you what it thinks it's going to be, but then people hang on to that, and then you're gauged against it 3 or 6 months later.
Oh, is he talking now? Oh, here he goes again. Here's the president, and no, I don't think so. He just a quick one and moving on. Sorry, Doug. He must have heard.
No worries.
He says, oh, no,
he
Doug.
loves this time of day, wherever he is in the world.
That's right. Yes. He apologizes in advance for once again interrupting the great Doug Flynn as he's talking about the markets, but there he goes into the palace. Anyway, Doug continues. You were saying?
Yeah. So I think, look, this first meeting, to me, the way I looked at it was a big reset for Warsh to do a couple things. One is to say to sort of the markets, hey, I'm not Trump's lackey. To sort of put it out there that to the other Fed members that he's not going to roll over them for their difference of opinions. And also basically tell the White House, hey, we might cut, but we just can't do it now. I need some credibility. So this really gave an opportunity to, there was no way he could credibly cut rates today, even though that's what he was put in for and that's what Trump wants. So he almost went the other way, said, listen, we're going to go tight, we're going to maybe raise rates. And what that does is it sets it up that he could actually raise rates sooner, in my opinion, by taking a harsher stance now. And you can see that in some of the outlook for the inflation rates that they think that the U.S. is going to have over the next year. And so if you put that out there and then suddenly inflation comes way down, which could happen with oil prices now around $75 a barrel, so suddenly he comes in later and says, look, I was tight and harsher when we needed to be, but now things are better, I can cut.
So that's the way I'm looking at it. About the Fed for years that they were quote unquote, or they would say we're data dependent. But your point is they really are now because it's so uncertain with the war.
They are data dependent, and it's all basically all centered around inflation. The numbers are higher than the original target. Look, when he was sort of thought of as this successor, the world was different. Inflation was way lower. We didn't have the war and the oil spike, and so it's a different world that he's entering it into. So I think Trump's being somewhat reasonable by saying, hey, let him do what he needs to do. I'll back him. But I think if you take a bigger view sort of from afar, you can see it actually sets him up pretty well. But it gives him more flexibility without tying him into those hard numbers that the old Fed was constantly talking about, and we kept going back and forth with all the time.
The president let you speak, but now you've been cut off by the closing bell. Thank you, Doug. Doug Flynn, closing bell ringing.